a lot of noise. You've seen him in a lot of things, and a show called The Syndicate, and a show called Bluestone 4-2 in Ripper Street, and of course, you know and love him as Neville Longbottom for the Harry Potter franchise. Please, give it up for Mr. how many of you called out from school or work to be here today?
That's a good effort. Thanks very
much. Bunch of slackers. Well, you know, I have a question just to kind of kick things off that's sort of, I think, uniquely directed to you. Talk about your connection to Orlando. What do you like about Orlando? Because you spend a lot of time around these parts, right?
Yeah, I come and go quite often. Sunshine's nice.
Yeah.
The people, of course, are lovely. My fiance is from Orlando, so that keeps me coming back.
Yeah.
I mean it's just a really fun place to visit. Of course, Universal Studios. I can't not mention that when we're discussing Orlando.
Right.
But I've just always had a great reception whenever I've come here, and I met my future wife here, so I can't argue.
Yeah, that's a good connection there. When you were a kid, were you always like a big roller coaster fan, or was that something that kind of you got into later?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I'm incredibly afraid of heights.
Okay.
But I like frightening myself. It's not fun, is it, if you're not scared of it? It's just that you're just going around in circles. Yeah. So the adrenaline, I'm quite an adrenaline junkie. I've done, skydives and that kind of thing. So if something scares me, I try and do more of it.
Yeah.
Except spiders. Spiders.
So, well, it's exposure therapy. It's like the more you kind of expose yourself to something, the supposedly you build up a tolerance to it. Skydiving is a different thing. Like, was it? And I know this is like an entirely different track, but it's fascinating. Like skydiving, the thing that's freaky is like once you're out of the plane, it's less scary. Like when I did it, the thing that freaked me out was just watching people jump out of the plane. What was the thing that kind of got your adrenaline up the most while in those moments?
The most difficult bit for me was, it was a tandem jump, so I was sort of strapped to another man. But you're in front, and so when they open the doors, it's your responsibility to swing your legs out, and you have to hook your legs underneath the plane.
Yeah.
So you're he's sat comfortably behind you in the plane. You're facing out like this, looking 15,000 feet down. And that was the most difficult bit, because that was all my responsibility, and that's when my muscles started to freeze. I couldn't quite get my legs to swing out. But I got there in the end.
That's extra freaky. Like I did a cargo plane where you just sort of pop off the back, not like hook. That sounds even more terrifying.
Yeah, it was, again, like you said, once you actually make that move out of the plane, the fear is still there.
Yeah.
It dissipates slightly, but that actual physical action of having to do everything, every sort of molecule in your body through millions of years of evolution is going, what are you doing? Are you mental? This is why are you doing this? And you have to sort of counter that, and it's difficult.
Yeah. It's cool. Well, let's go ahead and throw it to a question right over here. Hi, how are you?
Hi, my name is Natalie, and I'm a huge fan of you and the Impractical Jokers, and I was wondering how was it working with the Impractical Jokers and being a Joker?
Terrifying. Another great thing about Orlando. I haven't known the Jokers actually very long. I'm a huge fan of the show. My old housemates will tell you that it was the only thing that could ever make me truly belly laugh. I used to they always knew I was watching it because you could hear my laughter throughout the entire house. And I followed them all on Twitter, and I asked, no, that was it, Joe Gatto had asked Millie Bobby Brown if she wanted to come see them in London. And I was sort of, I was wrangling for an invite, and I was like, how can I get involved in this? And Joe saw it, and he put me some tickets on the box office, and so I went to go see them in London, I guess last year. And fast forward a few hours, we're on a boat on the Thames, getting really drunk. I don't really know how that happened. So then we became friends after that. And they said they were coming to Orlando. I said I was going to be here at the exact same time, my friend Dave. And they said, well, come down and watch us film, because it was the same week that we'd just done Celebration of Harry Potter at Universal Studios. That's why we were here. So I stuck around. My friend Dave cancelled his flight home to stay to watch them film it. And by a purely random, fortunate series of events, well, not for Sal, but for me, Sal put his back out and was in quite severe pain and couldn't actually move on the morning of the day we were going to watch. So as we were driving down to the Universal Studios, Q called me up and said, do you want to fill in for Sal? I thought he was joking at first. Until I got there and he started putting an earpiece in my ear and putting me on the Jurassic Park ride with other human beings. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I haven't actually watched it yet. It's still traumatized by it, so I haven't get past that to watch it yet. But yeah, it was great. I mean, I don't recommend it for a lot of people. It's got very clammy hands, very sweaty, very tense. Skydiving is nothing compared to that.
Yeah, there's sort of a different set of fears, because when you're on a set and you know what you're doing, where your marks are, it's a little bit more orchestrated, like you know what you're getting into, whereas this is just all untethered and out there, exposed.
And it is genuine. I mean, you watch the show and you wonder how much of it is staged, and it's literally none of it. They were sitting there writing jokes minutes before I was about to go and do it. And they were all behind the monitor. I could hear them all cackling behind the monitors, like the wooden things they were going to make me say. But then I was sort of blissfully unaware of it until I got on, and then they start talking to you through the earpiece, and you don't know what they're about to make you do. And I know that some of the stuff that was in the show, or that wasn't in the show, was a lot worse. I think we got the call from sort of Warner Brothers or Universal office saying, that cannot go in the TV show. So it was pretty grim.
That's funny. Good question. Thank you. Hi.
Hi. So I'm Maddie, and I was wondering, your acting work has been such an inspiration for me, and I was wondering if there was another actor or a person in your life that's been an inspiration for you.
Wow. So many. I mean, I don't know if I could really pick. I could probably pick one, but I mean, I wouldn't say I've sort of focused my career on the way that they have, but there's been I guess Tom Hanks is someone that I've always been really amazed by his work. Ever since I was a kid, sort of watching Big and Forrest Gump, and then I find it so fascinating how he can completely obviously adopt new characters and play so vastly different roles, which is his skills as an actor. But what I find so interesting about Tom Hanks, which I don't mean in an at all offensive way, I'm not sure that someone like him could become a leading man anymore in Hollywood, in the films that he's done. He's not that chiseled superhero, six-pack looking guy, and he never has been. And yet he's consistently been able to take these not superhero, but these heroic leading man A-list roles, and that's a testament to just how good he is as an actor, that he can do that. And again, I'm not sure that if he was to start his career now in 2017, he'd be allowed to, which is kind of a shame, because then we'd be denied some of the most amazing characters that I've ever seen. So yeah, Tom Hanks.
Thank you.
What's your favorite Tom Hanks movie?
I'm really, really fond of Apollo 13. I suppose that's the first thing that came to my head because Florida, obviously.
Yeah, the crowd.
Yeah, I made my fiance watch it just recently, actually. She'd never seen it before, and she thought they all died. So she was thrilled when they got backstage. I just went a little face lit up, and I was like, this is great. So that just stuck in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a Joe versus the Volcano fan. It's a great movie. Yes, that's right. Yes, and Meg Ryan, 3 different parts in it. Yes. Hi.
Hi, I'm Katie. I was just wondering, at the end of Harry Potter, who do you think Neville should have ended up with?
Well, it's difficult because in truth, the actual what is canon is not kind of the way we do it in the film. That's right, isn't it? Like because Hannah Abbott is who he ends up marrying. Do they live in a pub or something? Do they live in the
The Leaking Cauldron.
Yeah, they do. Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, if I was him in real life, I'd want to live above a pub. Obviously, in the movies, Luna is sort of the object of Neville's affection, which I also kind of like to a degree because they're both kind of outcasts and they have both fought against adversity in their childhoods throughout their entire lives, and yet both came through in the end as heroes in their own ways, and they both took very similar journeys, which I quite like. But I don't know, just as Hannah Abbott, so that's it. Can't really argue with Joe Rogan. The pub's really swinging it for me. I'm going to say what Joe said. What do you think? Who do you think you should have been with?
I think he should have ended up with Luna.
You do?
Yes.
It's quite popular.
Yeah.
Oh, so you quite like the way we did it in the film then?
Yeah.
Oh, fine, great, yeah.
I mean, and Joe had to sign off on that too, right? That kind of change?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I
so
mean,
there you
hey,
go.
like, they didn't get married at the end of the film. I'm sure maybe they went out for a bit, for a few months before they both drove each other insane.
Yeah. So, you know, you come to an event and people ask a lot of questions and they've thought about it and good questions too, but when did you start kind of reflecting on Neville and thinking about sort of where he would be or the impact of the role and etc.? Was it at the time? Was it shortly after? Was it when you started doing events like this?
Yeah, probably much later on than you'd expect. Obviously, I was a huge fan of the books, and we knew what a phenomenon it was. Not quite on the global scale that I'd be still here, across the Atlantic talking about it 7 years after we finished, 6 years after we finished. But we were very aware, even at a young age, just how much it meant to us. So, we can only imagine what it meant to a lot of other people, and we took it very, very seriously. But in terms of how much people would delve into the backstory and want to know about the future thereof and make their own opinions and write fan fiction and all this kind of stuff, that was not something that I really appreciated, I guess, until I did start come to these conventions and people blew me away really with the commitment and loyalty and passion that Harry Potter fans have for the series and the character that I was fortunate enough to play. I mean, I've been so lucky with Neville that every day I'm surprised by someone who has related to him or has been inspired by him. And that I'll never quite get over that.
Yeah. Hi.
How you doing? My name is Emilio. I'm a huge fan.
Thanks, Emilio.
I've been trying to see you before at other conventions. Just you're great. Love everything you're in. As far as Neville Longbottom, had he truly known you know, that he could have also have been the chosen one. Do you think, had Harry failed, Neville could have stepped into that role?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I think that the entire final book, the story that we never saw, you know, the Neville's battle, the Dumbledore's army, and the whole year that he was fighting relentlessly this kind of guerrilla freedom fighter war against the Death Eaters and whatnot in the school, and his remarkable leadership skills that came out of nowhere. When I think that the point of that we saw, well, the reason Neville stepped up there is because no one else was going to do it. I think that's the thing with Neville, is that he always wants to do the right thing, regardless of how much flack he's going to take for that, and despite his shortcomings. If no one else is going to do it, he's going to have to. And so I think, in light of what we have seen, the evidence there, if Harry hadn't been around to step up at the end, then it would have fallen to Neville and he would have had to do it. And I guess the only question that remains is, would he have been successful? And yeah, absolutely. I don't see any reason why not. I mean, he cut the head off a bloody snake. I think the thing that Neville had in his favour is that he just didn't know when to give up. And that's an incredible quality to have for anyone. And to not take anything lying down, just to keep going. And that's what Neville had, the relentless nature of it. So yeah, I think he'd have done it.
Thank you.
He'd have done it quicker and all.
Hello.
Hi. My name is Rachel, and first of all, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here with us today.
I'm not that busy,
Well, we really love having you here in Orlando, and we hope that you're having a great time so far. Here at Megacon, and, you know, just in Orlando in general. And I did have a different question, but now I just have to ask. Watching you talk about your fiance and how you met her here in Orlando, I really just have to know, like, what is the story? Like, how did you guys meet?
So I'm gonna give him a pass on that, since that gets into like personal life stuff. So
I have a different question then.
Okay, what's your other question?
Okay, so you got your start with Harry Potter, and many of us here grew up with the franchise, and it has been a major part of, you know, sort of our generation. What was it like for you to grow up with Harry Potter, but sort of growing up from the inside, like seeing all of the things, like the magic behind the movies and the books and things like that?
Well, I mean, first of all, thanks for your first question. Yeah, I'm going to try and side this for that one. I just try to throw that to him. But your second question is probably more difficult to answer than your first one. It's very difficult to describe what it's like on the inside. I suppose we kind of were protected a little bit in this bubble that we all lived in at Leavesden Studios, where we're all in the same boat. All of us as young actors, we're all just there trying to do a job, and it was only really like the premiere that you get every couple of years that would kind of shake you, and you go, holy hell, this is quite big actually. And then you go back into filming the next one, and you disappear for 18 months or whatever, 12 months. And you forget about it all again, and you're just back. It's like being at school, because we all had classrooms that we all did our schooling in, and we did schooling together, like 4 or 5 to a classroom. And we did obviously the filming side of it, which was kind of cool, but it felt like a school. It was a thing that we all just did together. You never felt alone, like it was abnormal, because there were so many of us there. So I don't think I ever really appreciated just how spectacular the project was until much, much later. And even now, at 27, I don't think I've quite fully come to terms with it, or I can really grasp the global nature of it. As I was alluding to earlier, I never thought I'd be here 5-6 years after we finished and I'd still be talking about it. And to this many people, you're all insane, why are you listening to me? It's just gone, you know, it's got bigger and bigger. The longevity clearly is there. People are still supporting us and they're still incredibly loyal. And I guess we've just been riding a wave, really, and tried not to stop and think about it too much in case we fall off. So I don't often try, but it is astonishing when I get invites to places and doors are open to me. I was in New York last week, and I was doing some meetings with various people. These are people who have made like Scorsese movies and Spielberg movies, and things that as a boy I dreamt of. I didn't even dream of that. I mean, that was another world. That was another existence. Even as a young actor, I would never dream of being in a Spielberg movie. That's absurd. But here I am in these rooms talking to these people, and I'm just like, Jesus, this is my life now. And it's little things like that that just give you a little wake up every now and then, because it's very difficult to forget just what the scale of Harry Potter was and is, because we just had such a tremendous time working on it, and we were all just so enjoying our lives that it didn't often register the responsibility that we actually had. I guess you could say that's the directors that made us feel that comfortable, the producers or whatever, or maybe we're just having each other around. I don't know. But it's only sort of in the last few years that I've started to really accept how special it was. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. Thank you for sharing.
I mean, it's kind of interesting too, because beyond sort of the experience of your life, from a work perspective, there's not too many films, not too many projects that had that kind of journey, you know? So it had to be kind of interesting when you went on to another job, you're like, oh wow, not everything was like that, you know? Like this being with people for this extended time, having this family kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been fortunate with the jobs that I've gone on to do since then. I've had, you know, leads in TV shows, I've had supporting roles in TV shows, and I've had time to find new characters and find new castmates that you really do become family when you work on a project for months at a time. And luckily, the opportunities I've been given post Harry Potter, I've had a similar experience in that field. But I've also done, you know, guest spots and stuff where I'm in for a few days, and it's a whole different feeling to walk onto a set and it not be your set, which it took some getting used to, because I'm used to knowing everyone around. I'm used to knowing the cameraman. I'm used to knowing all the lighting team and the makeup team and everyone. And so to come on for a couple of days on a job and not know anybody and feel kind of out of place and like, I don't know how to describe it really, like a new kid at school, I guess. After being so comfortable for so many years, it's bizarre. And it was something that I had to get used to very early on. Now I prefer that a little bit. I love that excitement of coming on and meeting new people and starting a whole new job and seeing what I'll be doing. You know, I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. It's exciting, but that took some getting used to, absolutely. And the scale as well. I mean, we had a blank check, which no one else in the world gets to make anything. A film or TV or whatever, so you know the days of being able to spend 4 days on one scene they just don't exist anymore. Even on the biggest budget pictures, it just doesn't exist anymore. And now I'm used to doing like 10, 12 pages a day. You know, like we're doing 4, 5, 6, 7 scenes a day. So it's a bit more intense. It's a bit more difficult. We have a little less freedom, I'd say. Not freedom. No, that's not far. I mean, a little less. Downtime, should we say? We got plenty of that. But it's all a new experience and it's a challenge, and it's stuff like that I enjoy. That's what I said to you earlier. Things that scare me are things that I am drawn to. So I've sort of enjoyed my last 7 years, probably, if you can forgive me, probably more than the previous 10 working on Potter. Not that I didn't enjoy Harry Potter, of course. I just the new challenges have been very exciting.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. Hello.
Hi. As an aspiring actor myself, I just wanted to ask, how important do you think it was to have been an actor from such a young age, and like how important was that in building your career?
For me personally, I'm not sure. Well, it's a double-edged sword, really, because in terms of my own acting experience and ability, I'm not sure it was that crucial that I started at a very young age. I still feel that I came out of Harry Potter at 21 years old and I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I didn't know how to act. I didn't know where to begin with a character. I mean, the thing it did give me, I suppose, was I knew how to behave on a film set, as in, like, when the director's talking, you shut up. I could do that. But beyond that, my actual expertise and actual skill set was still quite low. I think that everything that I've learned about craft has come to me in the last 6 years. When I realised that I couldn't just wing it anymore, and that I was in the real world, and that I had to pull my socks up and work at it. So I don't think that the age thing was starting young was a particular thing. Everyone's different. Everyone is prepared to absorb knowledge at a certain age. Some people might find that age at 14. When I was 14, I didn't give a crap. Like, I didn't want to know about anything. I was only mentally ready to start working and absorb knowledge when I was like 22, because I'm lazy. But different people have these different things. So I don't think that there's any kind of specific plan that anyone can adhere to, and I don't think that you should sit there and go, oh, I've missed out because I'm not 5 years old, started in a TV show. On the flip side of that, the other side of the sword is that, yes, it opened many doors for me that I would not have otherwise. I wouldn't have been in the room in New York with those people that I was in the room with had I not been in Harry Potter. I don't think that that's... I think that I'd be stupid to say otherwise. It's just not true. So, yeah, absolutely, it's given me a step up. But I don't in any way think that it's that without it, it would have hindered my personal progress as an actor. So I guess all I would say to you is, as an aspiring actor, is it's work. It's keep working, doing whatever you can to learn, because it's an experience job. You're trying to create characters, you're trying to portray emotions and situations, many of which you've probably never even been through. And so all that I can really recommend is to experience life, is to go out and try new things and do things that frighten you, because that's how we see the human condition, that's how we see how humans react to adversity in different situations. And if you've got no experience of that, if you've just lived in one room for 20 years, you won't understand anything about the world and how it works and how humans operate with each other. So go to a train station and people watch. Just watch how people interact with each other and do things that frighten you and push yourself out of your comfort zone and learn. It's the only way, really.
I mean, this maybe goes back to the Tom Hanks thing before, but what's a movie or what's a performance that you watch where you say, that's the kind of actor I want to be, or maybe not the kind of actor I want to be, but that's the kind of performance I want to be able to give?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm fascinated by, this sounds a bit wild, but by evil characters, bad villains.
Antagonists, like
Yeah. Because, or even anti-heroes, really, because I don't believe, you know, I'm a pathetic wet liberal, but I don't believe anyone's inherently evil. I think that we have, you know, things that happen through whether it's nurture, through our childhood, and issues in our when we've been raised or not raised properly, or in nature where there's a chemical imbalance or some kind of imbalance that people have, and all these factors contribute together to create problematic issues in people. And I find it fascinating as an actor to look at characters and try to figure out what it is that has inspired them, not inspired them, I suppose is the wrong word, but what has created them, what has created that monster. You know, what's happened to them in their youth, or you know, what has someone done to them that's made them behave this way. And so any kind of actor that's really gone down those kind of routes, I find really interesting. I know it sounds ridiculous actually to say it because it's not like an Oscar-winning performance or anything like that. But take Batman for example. I know this sounds absurd. Stick with me. In the Christopher Nolan kind of movies, the way that Christian Bale approached it, and the way the comics have always been, you know, he's a really dark, affected character who has so many psychological issues through the loss of his parents and his whole life. And you can see how he sits on that fine line between good and evil, because he could have easily grown up to be a serial killer or a murderer or you know whatever, but he didn't. His life was changed in one way, and he went. It was like, but he's constantly always fighting those demons at all times, and it's stuff like that I find interesting. That constant battle that we have with ourselves in our mind all the time, and so any performance like that, any actor who is willing to go into that psyche and show that. It's very brave. It's a difficult thing to do. Yeah. So I enjoy that.
I think that's an apt comparison or example because, and even you know with villains, or even a villain doesn't think of themselves as a villain. I'm the bad guy in the story. They think that there's reasons for what they're doing in their heads.
Robert Carlyle played the ultimate villain, Adolf Hitler, several years ago. And I remember reading an interview with him and said, "How did you play this? You know, how did you get into character to play a monster?" He said, "Well, Hitler didn't think that he was a monster. He didn't look in the mirror and go, 'You're a naughty boy.' Like, he thought he was doing the right thing. You know, excuse me, mental, but he thought he was doing the right thing in his own mind. And so what Robert Carlyle had to do, or what he was alluding to in this interview, was that he had to figure out what has to happen in your life that you think doing that stuff is the right thing. And that is to be able to go there and delve into that and try and find some humanity in a person like Adolf Hitler. That's intense. That's a hell of a lot of work, and that is that's something that I'm always impressed with actors. The constant drive to understand. And so that's kind of what I meant by that. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Mary Lee. My question for Matthew is, do you have a favorite scene or moment on the set with Daniel, Rupert, and Emma, and if so, what is it?
That's a nice little light-hearted jump, isn't it? Hitler. Nice little moment with us three. I mean, so many. We had it's just the most amazing time over 10 years. Dan and Rupert, I can remember very vividly, actually nothing to do with the set, but it is a story, is that we went to go watch the wrestling in Sheffield in the years, I think it was 2000, I think it was Rebellion in 2000, and we'd been filming for a few months at a time, and David Heyman, the producer, had got some tickets to go to the wrestling, and he had three tickets. Emma didn't really want to go. Can't imagine why. But then Rupert were very keen, and they asked me if I wanted to go. So we went to Sheffield, and we sat and had dinner in McDonald's. And I've got a photograph at home of like Dan with like French fries in his nose and his and Rupert's doing the same thing, and we're all just being stupid. And I was thinking, I mean, obviously I didn't think it at the time, but I look back now and that was probably the last time the three of us could have gone to a McDonald's in the middle of the city, and it was, no one cared, no one was interested. And you got Harry Potter and Ron Weasley sitting in McDonald's, no one cared. And that's kind of a fond memory that I have, before it all exploded. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank
No worries.
Speaking of wrestling, there was a lot of attention put on this. The fact that The Rock shares a house with you,
Yeah.
and you were talking about it online.
Yeah.
I mean, first off, you have to realize it's insane, like how much that tweet blew up, But what's the after effect of that? Have you heard from The Rock? Have you been like, what happens then?
Well, I'm a huge Dwayne Johnson fan.
And what a great actor in his own, the guy is tackling everything.
Well,
yeah.
okay, well this actually will tie into some of the questions that have been asked already about people who I admire and respect and whatnot. I've only ever finished 2 autobiographies in my entire life. I'm not a non-fiction reader, and Dwayne Johnson's was one of them. And I read it many, many years ago when I was about 14 years old. And it was just a really, really fascinating story about someone who acknowledges their limitations and acknowledges their strengths and realizes that to focus on their strengths, to achieve their goals, they're going to have to work their ass off. And that is what he did. He kind of accepted, kind of similar to what, he's just been voted the people's sexiest man, but have you seen the picture of him in that bloody black turtleneck?
In the manny hat.
Yeah, what's that about? Kind of accepted, doesn't look like Brad Pitt. But he was like, but I'm a massive guy, I'm an athlete, and I can, if I work hard in the gym, maybe I could be a wrestler. And he focuses on all his goals in one direction and really just commits and refuses to lay down and refuses. He got evicted from his house when he was a kid with his mom and all this kind of stuff. He said, I'm not going to let that define the rest of my life. If I work hard, he has this thing. He says, I'll be the hardest worker in the room, and that's what he's done. And he's overcome the weaknesses that Hollywood would have placed upon him. And he focuses on his strengths, a bit like Arnold Schwarzenegger did. And look at him now, he's the most bankable star in Hollywood, he's the highest paid actor in the world, and rightly so. And I just think that is such an inspiring story. So that's why I've always been a fan of Dwayne Johnson, as someone who can just go, I can make this work for myself if I'm willing to put the heart in and the effort in. And it takes a bit of luck, of course, no one's denying that. But the luck is meaningless unless you have the foundation on which to build. And he made sure he had that, so I like that a lot, and now I've forgotten what your actual question.
Oh no, he's a Hufflepuff. Yeah,
Oh yeah. So that must be indicative of Hufflepuffs, that attitude, that we have now accepted it is a we, we will work hard to achieve perfection.
It's done wonders for Hufflepuff kind.
Yeah.
The Rock in there.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a natural born leader. He can lead us to whatever house club, I don't know.
Yeah. I think this is our final question. Hi.
Hello, my name is Ashley. Nice to meet you. And I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, and I was wondering if you were a fan of the books before you auditioned for the movies, and if you had a specific character that you auditioned for. Like, basically, how did the audition process go for Harry Potter?
Okay, well, I was a big fan of the books. I think I started reading them when I was 9 years old. And before Harry Potter came along, I was obsessed with Star Wars. I still am. I used to have one of those old TV, VCR, combi things, and I used to put the VHS in and I'd hit this button where it would just like auto repeat. And so when it got to the end of the tape, it would automatically rewind and start the movie again. And I would just leave it doing that all night, and I would sleep to it. And when I woke up for school in the morning, it would, it'd still Luke would be having his hand locked off by Darth Vader. And I tried back. It's brilliant. And obsessed. And I always remember thinking, what a shame that I was born 20 years too, or 12 years too late for the first Star Wars. I can't be in Star Wars. Little did I know they were going to go and make a bazillion more of them. But then Harry Potter came along, and I became obsessed with this whole new world, this whole new universe that was a little close to home. And my sights then became set on that. And I guess I never really took it too seriously. I just wanted to be in it. I've been acting, by the time I had my first audition, I've been acting for about 5 years at that point. So I knew I had a chance. But when I say a chance, I mean a chance to have been an extra in the background, like a walk on the road. That's all I wanted. That's what I was used to doing, and that's all I ever wanted was to say that I'd been in it, to put the robes on and to have a wand and be in the back of the shot. I'm not even in the shot, just to be there, So I went for the audition, and we queued up, and it was like 5 hours. 5 hours we queued up, and I read a paragraph from the book, something about a dragon egg or something. And I was in the, I was in the room for 5 hours. I was in the room for about 30 seconds, then left and went home. And this is a running theme here, but my mum had tried to get me to leave the audition because she was bored. And she said, I'll buy you a McDonald's if we go now. As I've already established, quite like McDonald's back then. As I'm sure you all can tell. It's only funny because it's true. But even though I was very fond of McDonald's, I put my foot down and I said no. There's only one thing that I'm more fond of, and that is Harry Potter. And so I stayed and I went in and did my audition, and 2 months passed where we heard absolutely nothing. And I'd been so used at that age to either getting the role on the day or they call you back within 72 hours. You get a call saying you've got it or you haven't. So 2 months, I kind of figured, yeah, it's not happening. I remember my mum. I don't remember a whole lot from that time, but I remember my mum saying to me, "It's okay, because there's another book. This is a couple more books. We can take it for Chamber of Secrets and see if you can get in that one." So yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then out of the blue, after the 2 months, we got a phone call saying, would I like to come down to Legion Studios, meet Chris Columbus, the director, and screen test for Neville Longbottom, which was way beyond what I'd envisioned for my career. As I said, an extra was what I was aspiring to. So to go down there and meet Chris, and I got to stand on the Gryffindor Common Room set, which had been built by that time, and that's where we did the screen test, and it was the "I'll fight you." Just in like my regular clothes, I think. I wasn't in pajamas or anything. It was just regular clothes. Look on screen, and just to have got that far was pretty special. I was like, hey, if I don't get this, they're definitely going to have me as an extra in the back of the show. So I was pretty thrilled to get that far and to see it, and just to be able to take that away. Like, I had no connection to Star Wars. I remember leaving my house when I was a boy trying to go and find Carrie Fisher. I lived in Leeds in the north of England, wherever it was. But I just wanted to be connected to it somewhere. I had no connection to Star Wars at all. But this was enough for me, that I had this tiny little connection. I'd met the director, I'd been on the set, that was cool, that was all I needed. Lo and behold, 3 days later, they called to say that I landed the role of Neville and that I'd be on it for, well, they didn't tell me at the time, but I'd be on it for the next 10 years. So, had a little connection to it from then on. So that was my audition process, and no, I can't really put into words correctly or appropriately just how much that meant to me as a 10-year-old boy, and how much it still means to me now. Still a fan. I saw a play last year, blew me away. It's spectacular. The world is still as rich and wonderful as it's ever been, and so to have been a part of that is something that I will never take for granted, and consider a privilege and an honour to be a part of your world now as well. So thank you.